hello. Okay.
Professor,
Hello.
I have a question about the assignment that you posted, the game.
Oh, yes.
So do we have to write what we said or like take a screenshot of what we wrote every time we have a class? Like for example, last night, do I have to do it again since I emailed it to you?
Very good question. I'm glad that's a good question to start with. So, well, first of all, you never have to do it at all, but it is for extra points. So I'll say this. Yeah, anytime you can, you do want to. In other words, right, if you said something last class and then you submitted it for that one for last class, what I'm trying to say is that.
Oh, you don't want it?
Oh, pardon me for 1 second.
Oh.
Yeah, okay. What I'm saying, oh wait, sorry, someone else. Okay, I'm saying, and this was confusing other people too. I do want to clarify this. I'm saying that like after every class, I'll release that assignment, that portal, that opportunity, and every time you say something, you do want to, like if you say one thing today, you put it in for that assignment. If you realize you said something 2 weeks ago and never put it in, then you could put that in the next time we have an assignment. Like every time you say something, you are welcome, encouraged to put it anywhere, because anytime you record, anytime you put in for that assignment, I said this in class today, I'm giving you 50 points or whatever. So definitely, if you say a new thing against, like today, you're asking this question. Absolutely, I want you, I mean, if assuming you want the points, just for the question alone, and the fact that you asked it with your voice, you're going to see, I'm going to want you to submit that 3 times, actually. I think it's, or at least twice. Like you're going to submit it once just because you said anything at all, I mean, that you contributed anything, but then also you actually were willing to say it with your voice. You didn't even just put it in a public chat. So you're going to see there's even going to be a separate assignment portal where you can put the same comment in for that one. And then, yeah, like next week, if you say a question like that again, I'll want you to put it in again. I'm basically trying to say that every time someone says something, I kind of want them to be rewarded for that. So I apologize you do have to do a little extra work to record it each time. I mean, not to write it down each time. But yeah, I'm saying for any class where you do anything, where you say anything, submit that for points of credit. Am I answering the question? Does that make sense? Or not? Sort of?
I think so, yeah.
So it's not only for last class, it's just in general. If we didn't.
Oh, right. So, and I think I see what's confusing. So So in principle, oh wait, hold on a second. Yeah, and we'll talk about the exam in a second. Sure. We'll talk about the exam in a second. Yeah. And we'll talk about the exam also in a moment or today. But as far as this assignment, and it might be more clear if while we're working today, if I start sending more things to you about this in the Google Stream. But I'm basically saying every time we have a class, in principle, instead of lots and lots of different homeworks that you're doing a lot of things at home for this class, I'm basically saying at the end of every class, jot down what you said in that class. Like for every class, I'm putting this assignment portal up. And for every class, you can use that assignment portal to report, to remind me of anything you said today in class and get points for that. So in theory, in every single class, we have that assignment portal, and every class, then that night, there's just take 5 minutes to just tell me what you said. And so you'll get that many extra points for that class. So I am saying it's like do a fresh one for each one. And hopefully I'm putting it, that's why they're piling up. There was number 1 and then take 2 and then take 3 and take 4. Like each class, I'm going to put more of those in your stream. But I'm also saying, yeah, say you didn't understand that until now. Say now you're just starting to understand, oh, he wants me to put this in every time. Then if you realize you said something 2 weeks ago or something, you can still put it in from the assignment from 2 weeks ago, or say you didn't say something 2 weeks ago, but you say 2 things today. You can use one of them for, I'm basically saying, if you ever have the guts, whenever you have the guts to put something in the public chat or say it, you should be able to find some assignment portal from a couple weeks ago or for today or from next week where you can just drop that in and get points for it. The timing is not important to me. There's no concept of, even if Google says you're late on one of them, I'm just saying there's a record for each week where you can get points. Today it might become more clear, or it might actually become a little more confusing, especially when we start talking about the exam, which is oh yeah, totally. Wait. So Alexandra's question, if I'm understanding it right, if she's talking, if Alexandra is asking about the assignment thing that Andreas is asking about, like, yeah, like definitely I just need bullet points. In fact, it doesn't even have to be that long. Like literally, okay, so, and again, it might be more clear in the middle of today, but like literally everybody who's in the public chat, right? So I'm looking at the public chat right now, right? So Alexander, and I'm sorry if I mispronounce names, and do please correct me, but like Alexandra's name is there, Ariel is there, Vicky is there, and clearly Andreas is asking me out loud a question about this. So every one of you people, right, for today, when you see the assignment that just says like the game take 11 or whatever it's called, and where it says just jot down any comment, blah, blah, say, just as an example, if you're Alexandra, if she's Alexandra, she could literally, she doesn't even need bullet points. She could just literally write down, I wrote in the public chat, would just bullet points on a blank doc be okay? She could even just screenshot that little moment where she just wrote, would just bullet points be okay? Like, she's just reminding me that that was her question, and it's a totally legitimate question. I don't even know if I'm answering it yet or not. I'm trying to answer it.
Yeah, like, because my idea was, so I feel like the easiest way is, because when you go into Classroom, it says like your work, add or create, mark is done. If you do add or create, it'll just open up like a blank document, and you can just write it in like by bullet points.
Oh my God. Dude, I mean, do that. I mean, Alexander, I did not, that's amazing. Excuse me. I totally get what you're saying. I did not, screenshot is definitely okay. Yes, to answer now. And let me also say that, for example, and this I'm saying wrong. Nayun, am I saying it wrong, right? Or Nayun? Well, let me make it clear. The answer to Nayun's question is, first of all, yes. Second of all, that's another example that's 50 points right there. Just literally screenshotting the thing that says screenshot is okay. But then what Alexandra just said kind of blows my mind. I totally did not think of that at all. In fact, I always ignored that button and never, I do get what she's saying. I hadn't thought of it, but that's a great thing. Yes, you could just literally submit the assignment right in there. You don't even have to do a PDF or anything. I didn't even think of that. All you're doing is basically writing me a little note. It's just a little note, like a Post-it reminder of just like, I was the one that said that thing, right? And it's not, and you're basically just reminding me, because the thing is, I do have a very good memory for certain kind of things. And like, I think you're all beginning to tell, like, the more you say stuff, the more I do remember you and know you. And what am I paying attention to other than whoever's saying anything? So you're just reminding me, you're just like jotting down a note, like I asked, is screenshot okay? And then all you're going to get back from me when you put that in, you're just going to get a little comment note back from me that says something like, yep, I remember, thanks, awesome, or whatever. But then you'll see 50 points. Like if you did it right, you'll get 50 points, and it'll be fat. Like part of why I like this is that if we're understanding it, it's like a fast exchange between you and me. It's not meant to be a new stressful, it's not meant to be like you're swearing an oath and proving with documentation. No, you're just like reminding me that you did this. And then I'm giving you 50 points for that reminder. And frankly, but yeah, that's happening. And I will change the subject in a minute and get to the exam, but you'll see, if we start talking about the exam today, or once I pass out the practice exam, which might happen in the middle of today, once we're like studying together directly for the exam, you'll see more of these assignment portals like ending up in your stream with actually like different points. For example, you'll see what's going to happen is I'm going to have the usual thing of like, the game take 5 or whatever, and everything we just said just applies. If you've made any comment at all, and already like that's 7 of you, right? 7 of you have already gotten 50 points. You'll just like jot a reminder to me down in that, and there's your 50 points. But then you'll see there's other things too, like one thing we're doing every time is there's an extra portal called for right or for wrong. And I am doing that every week. And then maybe this is part of maybe what's confusing people or whatever, but I'm saying every week or every time we have class, you say anything at all publicly, you jot it down, you got 50 points. But then I'm also saying every class, I'm saying there's also a separate portal called for right or for wrong. Take 2, take 4, take 6, blah, blah. And for that one, if you actually said something in the class that literally I said, oh yes, that's right. Like you tried a physics thing, you tried a step in a solution, or you proposed a way to do a solution. Anything that you actually have the guts to concretely go out there and say, all right, I think it's cosine of the angle or something. And if I go, yes, that's right, or I go, no, that's wrong, which hopefully I do more politely. But in other words, if you have the guts to say anything that's actually specific enough that you're risking me saying in front of the whole class that's wrong, if I say it's wrong or I say it's right, either way, if it was risky enough for me to say right or wrong, then you're putting that in for an additional 50 points. Again, this might be the thing that's confusing people, or Andreas or others, it did in the other class. I'm saying every week, for anything you say, put it in for 50 points. But plus, as an added, like double dip benefit, if it happens that you said something like, oh, I would use a cosine here, or oh, I think it's y equals a cosine omega t, or whatever. If you say anything specific enough, like you try something in front of everybody, if it's specific enough for me to say it's right or wrong, then you put that in for an additional 50 points. And what I want to make clear again to everybody, because it is going to get slightly more complex, is you can double dip that. Meaning, if you actually, like an example in today, I'm even willing to say in a way, well, I usually mean like physics by that, but if one of you had right, so say you did that, say one of you just for the first time right now just said like, I think the frequency is higher in the Doppler effect or whatever, you could submit that twice, one for just being anything at all, and one for specifically being a right wrong deal. So that's another way to get points. What you're going to see today, if we start talking about the exam, or we start getting more focused on doing work that is for the exam, there's going to be other point possibilities too. Like, for example, you'll see in assignment portal, if anybody actually submits an image to the chat, like they work something out and they screenshot it and they submit it to the chat. If you have, because it takes guts to do that. It does feel very vulnerable to put a picture in the chat. But if you put a picture in the chat, which basically means like you're asking me to look at it, you're publicly asking me to look at it, and you're willing possibly to even let me, like you recognize that I might now share it with everybody, which doesn't mean it's perfect, and certainly doesn't, and I would certainly never do it to shame one. But if you're willing to try a picture that I might go public with, that's 75 points. You'll see, you'll get, and it also counts as having just contributed anything at all. There's other examples like that. We should start talking about the exam, I think, in a minute, because I think someone did, Andreas asked, but and it's a fair question. And while we're studying for an exam, we're preparing for an exam, there's also 75 points for doing exactly what, like Nayun, whose name I'm sorry, I'm mispronouncing, if I could get corrected, but Nayun and Alexandra did. Like, again, anybody who's in the chat at all got 50 points just for being in the chat. And this is all about going public, right? Like private, you can ask me anything, but I can't like give points for that. But these two questions at the end, notice that at the end, it may seem silly or it may seem obvious, but two people at the end asked questions that were actually, they were asking questions of me. They're totally fair questions. They're about like the assignments or the grades or the tests or whatever. But notice, not to be weird, but notice the last two questions that were asked of me in the chat would actually are worthy of 75 extra points, because weirdly, both of those questions are actually multiple choice questions. Like both of those questions gave me choices of how to answer. Like the first one is, would this be okay? Yes or no? Like I could just say yes or no. The second one, same thing. Is screenshot okay? Yes or no? Like they're literally giving me, I mean, they're not giving me 5 choices. They're giving me 2 choices, kind of like true and false, but choices. There's a huge advantage. Anytime you can ever get your confusion down or your question distilled to the point where you can actually give the answerer choices. If you can frame your confusion as a multiple choice or true false question for me, like especially if it's about the material, like do we use a sine or a cosine here? Or like, is this supposed to be a negative sign or a positive sign? Or is this asking for velocity or acceleration or position? If ever you have confusion and you want to ask something, like, which again is I'm not gonna talk all period, right? Or we're gonna like problem solve and try to study for the exam, which I will address. But if ever you're trying to work on something and then you want to ask me a question for help, you want to ask anybody a question for help, it's so enormously advantageous for you to first try to frame your question as a multiple choice, like pretend you just made it into a test question in a way. If you can frame your question as multiple choice, especially to me, the huge advantage is one, it forces you to see exactly what you understand and what you don't. It means by the time you frame the question, you might even end up answering it yourself. But B, if you really do then pose it to me, the great thing about phrasing your question as multiple choice is ideally I'll talk a lot less than ideally. I can cut myself off and just be like, yep, that's the answer. And then we can all move on and I don't waste anybody's time. Whereas if someone says, can you teach me about velocity? I'm liable to try to rise to the challenge and try to teach it from scratch and then waste everybody's time in the class, like going on for 45 minutes about my fascinating feelings about velocity, like because someone like didn't attend any class for 2 years or something. Like those kind of questions are not as good as, is velocity have a direction or is velocity a vector or not, Yaverbaum? Like if I could know that, then I could move on. So anybody who asks a question like that, you're going to see you get 75 points for it. Like that'll be another separate portal. And anything I'm saying like this right now just applies every time. It's just like a growing accumulation of point possibilities. I'm trying to sort of gamify things, sort of. And I asked this once before, but nobody in this room plays a game called Animal Crossing, right? You don't know what I'm talking about. That doesn't ring a bell for anybody. Okay, because it's sort of modeled on that. But all right, but there was a very there's a very fair question. Wait, so I don't know if I just made anything clear. I think again, as you get more of you'll know you got one of these back if you just get something back that has like a quick note that has 50 points on it or 75. And the more I think you get back, the more maybe this will be clear to everybody. The exam would be presumably a priority. We should turn to that in a moment. I haven't said anything direct about it. I'm going to, but I do want to get us warmed up and I want to get myself not talking for a second and to get us clearly back on page. So I'm going to pause for a second and I'm going to just ask you to consider this. So we will get to the exam, but all right. I'm going to spend a moment getting you all a document. In terms of the exam question, you'll understand the exam best if I give you a practice exam. I think I'm going to be doing that and uploading that in a few minutes, and that we'll use that to start addressing questions and timings and all of that. But can we try this in a moment for the moment while I'm getting that? Like I'll take anything in the chat or any input at all or any thoughts on this one question. So I'm giving you wavelength, giving you frequency, asking you speed, just to pick up from where we were last.
Sorry, Professor, for wavelength, is it 0.3 meters or is it 3 meters?
Great question. Thank you. No, thank you for, yeah, actually it is supposed to be 0.3 meters, right? If that is not clear. Good point. Thank you for actually, yes, it is supposed to be 0.3. I can see. Sorry. Okay. Oh, excellent. I'm sorry. I was just, okay. Let me see. This is awesome. Awesome. Oh, okay. Sorry. I forgot. Well, gr- great. So, okay. I was doing something, I was posting something for everybody. No, this is great. You guys are fast. Oh, very nice. Wow. I'm just catching up, but yes, it is. It's 150 meters per second. Yes, yes. Awesome, awesome. Yay, yes, yes, yay. And oh, wow, Google, nice. All right. And again, I'm behind you. This is good. Thank you guys. I could have been, I'm glad that you all jumped all over a problem like this. You're totally right. And yeah, and I'm looking at I guess I'm not sharing. I'm looking at the doc share thing. And yes, I totally agree that the answer is 150. Well, I'll put in. I absolutely agree. And I'm glad we're all on the same. Yeah, the units are important. Right. Yes, and this is definitely a big yay. And I know, and you might think, well, whatever you think, I'm glad so many people just jumped in. So we do have a clue, clearly. But yeah, units are important. And the units are meters per second. I mean, well, hold on, sorry. Yeah, play it safe, right. And that's a very fair. So here's the thing yes, in science, once you get a final answer, if you're not sure, once it's a final answer, I totally get how it's playing it more safe to kind of leave off the units or whatever, because if you put them on, they could be wrong. But I'll tell you, it's also more safe while you're going through to track the units, especially if you do it privately or whatever, because they'll let you know whether your answer is right or wrong once you get used to them. But yeah, the units, so yes, hold on. Right, good. Yeah. Oh, sorry.
Why is not meters per second to the -1?
Yeah, no, that's right. Yes, meters times seconds to the -1 is the same thing as meters per second. Yes, that's the same thing. That's right. That's good. So is everybody cool now? So what? And I know this is getting dry, and I always say that. I mean, I don't know. Everything about Zoom is dry, but what I want to try to show today, I know I over talked it last time, and I'll get back to the exam again in a second, but maybe this is a plug and chug. I mean, in a way, once you get it, everything is a plug and chug, but the takeaway certainly is this, this is certainly true. And that's what you guys are doing, and that's right. And this is that's meters per cycle. And this is cycle per second. And you all did that right, and that is great. And these numbers are actually kind of realistic. The thing I want to emphasize now, and again, you might notice something that was in your stream, and we'll go to that in a second. We'll address that. But the conceptual point behind this is, okay, from now on, we have this equation to describe waves, and it comes up in science everywhere. Like if you really, you're science majors, you may not all be physics majors, whatever that means. You may not even be forensic science majors, but you're going into science, right? And I promise you're going to see speed equals wavelength times frequency all over the place in instrumentation, in instrumental, in PChem, especially with regard to sound waves and light waves. A key thing about this equation is not just, I mean, sure, it's 3 letters. You plug in 2, you can solve for the other one, sure. But one thing that I was trying to show right at the end last time, and again, by the way, every single one of you that put something in the chat here, you're going to get points for that. And again, I will pause in the middle here while you're working to make those point things more clear, hopefully if they're not yet. But the thing about this equation is, that for any and all, the big takeaway of last time, mathematically and physically, is that for any given wave, any given wave, the nature of a wave is that once you know the medium, like a wave is a material collection of oscillators, right? It's a bunch of little actual objects that are going back and forth, but together the motion is in and of itself, right? Once you know what kind of oscillators you have, once you know the medium for the wave, once you specify the materials through which the ripple travels, then you have automatically specified the speed of that ripple. Like the speed is fixed by the materials. That's what I have to keep saying over and over, because it really is not obvious at all. It may be clear, hopefully, once I say it, maybe hopefully, but it's like not at all that we would all assume life would be this way. And the implications are staggering. So I'm going to say again, I'm saying for any wave, like water waves through the ocean, or water ripples through the surface of a bathtub, or slinky waves, or sound waves in air. Once you know what kind of wave you're talking about, once you say, oh, air at this standard temperature and pressure, then you automatically, in effect, know what speed all the ripples are going to travel at. And that is fixed. Like they won't speed up or slow down or change. Right now, I'm saying that over and over, because then that means that for any given wave, if V is a constant, it necessarily does, and it's usually the constant that you know, and it does mean that if this goes up, the other goes down, and vice versa. Like, it really does mean, this is where we ended up last time, I just want to emphasize, like it really, like, and it always blows my mind. If I just go to a pond, or like, just like, yeah, a pond or something outside, or if I'm looking with people, I mentioned this last time, I think, you never see one ripple catch up to another ripple, never. You never see a ripple catch up to another ripple. They're always equally spaced. They're always lagging behind each other by the same amount, because all ripples go the same speed automatically. It's like really weird. Like all the ripples that you see in anything that's rippling, they actually all go the same speed. Now you can control how many there are. You can tap the water a lot more to make a lot more ripples. In other words, you can increase the frequency, but that's making a lot more ripples. Each ripple will therefore be that much closer to the next ripple. If frequency goes up, wavelength goes down, and vice versa. Like that is what we're saying is locked for a wave. It's locked because V is locked. Okay, that's like the take. So we're going to use that to do something called the Doppler effect in a moment. But I do want to address the exam. There's two really important things you need to know about the exam, right? You need to know when it is, if we didn't already say, and you need to know like how it goes, but you also need to know how to study for it. The second question is easier to answer. Okay, what I just put in the stream for everybody, hopefully one of you can confirm that you got it. You'll see a practice exam for the midterm. In fact, could someone confirm whether they see that in their stream? Great, thank you so much. Okay, so here's really the deal. Oh, great, thank you. Okay, and again, that's 50 points, 50 points. Thank you. Okay, we're very serious about practice exams in physics. I mean, meaning that we really think like if we're going to ask you to take an exam, we should show you exactly what it's going to be like before you take it. And you should be able to do a fire drill before you have an actual fire alarm. Whatever the actual exam actually looks like will be super similar, like very similar to whatever our last draft of any practice exam looks like. Meaning what I just put in your stream is hugely close to what the actual exam will look like. Like it's what the exam looked like last semester, let's say. But as we get a little closer, I might make some changes here and there. Like we might have talked about one thing more in this class, and we might not have talked about another thing in this class or something. So I might, as I realize more exactly what will be on the exam, we might, or we find errors in the practice midterm or something like that, or confusions, we might update it with corrections. Whatever we update it is just to make it that much more helpful. And whatever we update with then goes, and you throw out any old versions. But by the time you get to the actual exam, you will have already fully taken it on your own and experienced it basically with almost all this, nearly all the same numbers and stuff like that. And just to make this clear too, you will get some solutions to the exam that I just posted in the stream. Like maybe not all, but you will get a bunch of solutions, so you'll see what the right answers are and how to do it. And you'll have all that before you actually take your exam. So most, other than exactly when is it going to be, most questions about what is a physics exam like in this class, or how do we prepare, or like what should we expect, the simple answer is it will be almost literally whatever that document is that I just put in the stream, except for whatever changes or updates I make to it, and Walters makes to it. Between all the parts of it, Walters and I will walk you through. You will review and stuff, and nothing will be surprising. But in a lot of classes, it is very essential and very important to like study a whole range of different example problems before you get to a test, and then see like which version of the problem is on it. Like it's important to know like 15 different versions of, like in a math class, often it's good to know 15 different versions of a certain type of problem. And then you get to the exam and like 2 versions of it are on there, but you didn't know which 2 it would be. So you studied all 15. We don't quite do it that way in physics. Here, it's a little bit more like, and this can be confusing at first, but we're actually telling you what we want you to know. We want you to know these types of problems, not 15 different versions of them, like these specifically. And we really feel like if you really, really do know how to solve these particular problems, then you really do get the full range of problems. So the way to study in physics is not to do a bunch of different things, and it's not to use the textbook or go on the web or anything like that. It's the document to study from is the practice test. If you really knew the practice test cold inside and out, like if you did it 3 times or something and you don't have to look while you're doing it and you can do it in a reasonable amount of time, then you're totally set. We guarantee. I mean, if you really know the practice exam, then you're really set for the actual exam. Now, when is that going to be? I think, well, wait, so far, am I making any sense? I'll stop for a second. Am I making any sense? So the deal is, it's all about the practice exam from here on in until we get to the exam. It's about everybody working at their own pace on that practice exam. Soon we'll give you solutions to it. But you want to try it on your own without looking. Oh, okay, cool. Thank you. I appreciate that. Okay. And I'll be slightly more specific again. Oh, what? Oh, my Google Home device just got involved in the conversation. Thank you so much. I've literally found myself asking Siri to tell Google Home to shut up. I don't understand how I get involved in these conversations, but thank you. I appreciate that. I just forgot what I was going to say. Oh, I mean, ideally what one does, and this is the way we do it, and this is not because of a virus, like this is how we do it in physics, no matter what. Like ideally, once you get a practice exam, you don't have the answers from us at first, so you just like try it on your own, at your own pace. And ideally, and that's what we are going to start doing today in class. Like I will shut up and you're just going to start like working on it to break the ice and see how bad it is not, or how bad it is, or whatever. But the idea is you just go through it and you try to do it as though it's a real exam. I mean, I don't need to tell you people this. Then, but when you get to a point where you're stuck, if there's solutions by the time we give them to you, then you consult the solutions. And if you still don't understand the solutions, then that's when it's time to like go on the web or ask the professor or ask your friends and try to straighten things out. But it's all about trying to straighten out how to get answers to that thing, either with or without help. But what we advise is, therefore, the first time you're working through the practice exam, and we'll start that in class today. The first time you're working through it, it's to see what's what. Like, don't put pressure on yourself. Don't rush yourself. Don't say that it has to be in test conditions. Don't say that you're not allowed to look or something like that. The first time you look at the test is actually to get yourself acquainted with the test in a non-stressful way. And again, that's going to happen today. That's why I just put it in the stream. It really is practice like that. So first you just try to go through and just do whatever you can do, and then get yourself help with whatever answers you want, and do it in taking whatever time you want. You do that once. Then, and again, you won't finish doing that today in class, but like in my ideal version of how these practice exams work, they can be all you need to do the whole exam. And to be super honest and say something that I shouldn't say as a teacher, you know, with these practice exams, you could join the class right now. You could have paid attention to nothing for 2 months. Join the class now. And if you really get what I'm saying about how the practice exam will be the exam, then as long as you just had that practice exam and studied the crap out of it and made sure you knew how to do everything on it, you would be set for the exam. Like, that is really true, but this is what you have to do to be that. You do it once, like I was describing, with no time constraints, no pressures, no stress. You're there to see how surprising or jostling it may feel that first time. And you're there to get the surprise out of the way. Then after you've gone through and gotten answers to all, and you sort of see, well, okay, I see what he did here. I would have never thought of that. I would have never thought to do it, but all right, I see what he did. And I guess I could do that the next time, even though I don't really quite know why, but okay, but you get to that level with it. Now you kind of know it. But of course, that's the level that a lot of people will stop. Once they get all the answers and they see how I got the answers, they'll be like, all right, I'll take the test now. But we all know that's actually the lie. Like that's not the case. Just because you see how I got all the answers, that doesn't mean you're ready to take the test. You now try to take it the second time, and I will shut up. I really feel like I'm saying too much, but I feel like this gets lost to all of us science students. The practice exam is meant to be a gift. Like it's meant to be the password to unlocking the actual exam and just rocking it and getting an A with little stress. But in order for it to work that way, you do have to use it to learn. So you do it the first time, like I described. Then the second, oh, sorry. Yeah, good question. Tiffany's question, great question. I'll answer that in 1 second. Let me just finish because I'm on a stupid roll. But yeah, I'll tell you how much it's worth in 1 second. Just what I'm trying to say overly longly to everybody is this practice exam is going to be all you need as long as you look out for any corrections we send. This practice exam and solutions is going to be all any of you need. That is a promise. It's all any of you need as long as you know how to do everything in the practice exam. You'll know everything you need to know for the actual exam. But what I really say is you got to do the practice exam 3 times. That's what I'm sort of overly describing to everybody now, but I'm going to do it anyway. You got to do it 3 times for it actually to have the value that we're talking about. But if you do it 3 times, you can do it calmly and it will have infinite value because you won't have to do anything else. The second time you do the practice exam should be the time that you're trying to do it without looking. You're still allowing yourself to look at solutions if you have to, but every time you do look, you're really making a concerted effort to now notice, okay, I'm looking a lot. I don't really understand this if I'm looking this much because there's not that much to memorize. It's about understanding. So on the second time, you pay more attention to how much you're looking. And on the second time, this is very concrete advice, really. First time, just take it. Second time, time yourself. Don't restrict yourself. And I'm telling you too, this is real advice for getting through science exams in general. First time you study, you practice, you don't worry about time. Second time, you worry about time in the sense that you do clock yourself. Just see how long it takes you to get through the whole thing on your second pass through. When you know what's coming and you in principle understand the material, see how long it takes you. Don't rush. And allow yourself to take breaks, whatever. Like it can include walking around and doing something else. But if it takes you 10 hours to do it on the second time, you just need to be aware of that, right? And then on the third time, of course, really don't look, first of all. Really see what you can do without looking and really practice. Imagine it's the real exam. So you're writing out all the steps and you're trying to make it as clear to Walters and me as possible that you actually understand everything. You're really practicing writing it all out. On that third time, make sure that you're not looking and make sure that you beat your time from the second time. Like by the third time is when you should actually be like aware, how much am I really in command of this versus how much do I sort of get what he was doing. That's what it really means to use a practice exam. Like take it from the stage of getting what I'm doing to the stage of you're doing it on your own with your command, and you do that 3 times. Okay, again, we're going to start working on that today. But now, how much is it worth? Great question. Tiffany's question. Great question. The way the grade, basically it's worth a lot, because here's how the grades work. I mean, not overly much, but the way the grades basically work in the class is the lecture part and the lab part are split in the class. I believe, I believe the lab is worth 40% of the class and the lecture is worth 60%. I can confirm that. I mean, it's in the syllabus. I mean, I'll triple check that with Walters, but I believe the lab is like 40% and the lecture is like 60%. But then of the lecture component, this component, there's this midterm exam, the final exam, we'll average those together to get one exam score. And then it's going to be that exam score plus any and all of the points that I pile on top of that for all the homework and for all of these participation points that were these game points. Like, of course, and then this is, again, let me make it clear, like every time you get 50 points for one of those things, they're going in your pile. Now, any one of you is going to end up with like 400 extra points or something. I'm not saying I'm actually adding 400 points to anybody's average, but I will take that number. But at the end of the semester, all the points that are accumulated, I will take everybody's points and divide by one scaling factor for everybody. Like, and we don't know what that is yet. We can never know until the end of the semester. But so say you accumulate 400 of these extra credit participation points, and say this semester we divide by 50, like whatever anybody's total is, we divide by 50. So you end up with 8, right? And whatever that number is, it would be the same for every student, of course. It would just be a number to make this fair. So how your grade would work at the end is in the lecture component of this class, you'd have 2 exams averaged together, and whatever that average is. So this midterm and a final averaged together and then plus 8 points, which is a lot, right? And it will be something like that. It might be something like 12 or 15. You're going to get a lot of extra points for all these extra points that you do. But your average in this part of the class will be the average of 2 exam scores plus those extra points. That's your grade in this part. And then you get a grade from Walters, which is similar, but you have to talk to him about that. And then the two things get weighted together. So, I mean, again, that's an overly long answer, but the most quick, accurate thing to say about how much this exam is worth, I would say then that what that ends up meaning is the exam scores probably realistically ends up being worth between about a fourth of your overall grade. Like this exam score, yeah, would probably determine between a fourth and a third of your overall grade. Like it's not small, it is big. A lot of times, a lot of people do well on it in this class. Like, again, it's possible for everybody to get an A on it, and that's okay. That's great. But yeah, it would be now, when is the exam? Okay, wait, did that answer, wait, sorry, did that answer Tiffany's question? I feel like my answers are too long and too short. But now we're up to honest, well, great. Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. And again, well, the grading, the exact particularities of the grading, which is a totally fair question, are in the syllabus. But now, when will the exam be? Did we know? I will tell you, we're sort of going to decide that as a group right now in a way. I mean, it's not a democracy, but we will come to that as a group. If we didn't already determine that last week, but this is the first time we're discussing this. Is that correct?
It's not the first time. I just wanted to kind of confirm it.
Oh, right. Oh, no, totally. I didn't mean it like that. I'm sorry. No, you should. But I mean, so we didn't make a decision. I have not announced a decision on this yet. Is that on when it is?
You
You said
November
November 11th.
How long? Oh, sorry.
Sorry.
Wait, say it again. Sorry. So both of you, I said what?
Oh, sorry. You said that you was gonna post it on November 11th, but you wasn't sure.
Oh, you're right. I'm sorry. Oh, the actual thing. Right. Okay. Yes. Here's I think this is what I want to propose. That is what you're right. That's what I said. Here's what I want to propose now. Now that I'm actually giving you the official, now that you have an official document to start working with to make it more clear, what I'd like to have today's class, I think would also benefit us all to have class next week, like for you to have a full week to study this thing and to have questions and stuff like that about it, and for us to also post solutions for you. So wait, I believe that November 18th is too long to wait. I think that will start messing you up with finals and stuff. But what I would like to propose, and I'll let you talk about it for a second. What I'd like to propose is that we then post the exam. This will kind of annoy. What I'd like to propose is that we post the exam Friday the 13th. That doesn't sound so good, but I would like to propose that we would post the exam Friday the 13th. That is to say a week and 2 days from now, so that way we have today and next week, Wednesday, but particularly, I'm sorry, that way we have today and Tuesday with Walters and next Wednesday with me to answer any and all questions about this practice document. And then still give you 2 days to deal with it. Then we would post the exam Friday night. And here's the good news or the bad news. This is my proposal again. The good news and the bad news that I guess I did mention, it says here in the, yeah, okay, right. So I said this in the chat. Yeah, that it's totally a take-home thing. That is absolutely true. Absolutely true. So if I say we would post it Friday, what I would mean by that is it would be due back to us to be submitted before class on Tuesday, before lab on Tuesday. I don't remember what time you have lab, but it would be due before that lab period begins. So you would have Friday through Tuesday to do it. Now, the bad news of that is, of course, it would ruin your weekend. I mean, that's not a fun way to spend a weekend, but the good news is you would have all weekend and Monday to do it. And again, let me say, yes, you remember correctly, or apparently I said, when I say you have all weekend to do it, we are absolutely assuming, hoping, encouraging that you would be talking to one another while the exam was on. Like we would expect that once it's posted, we would hope that you guys would help each other and stuff once it's posted. We would even, and we will know that you're going to go on the web and get help and blah, blah, blah. Oh, I remember now. We did talk about this in this class, right? All of that is still is absolutely true. Then, of course, by Tuesday, when you hand it in on time before lab, each of you will hand in your own document with your own name that shows all the steps and reflects your understanding. So it's like clear by that point that you might have learned everything from your best buddy in the class, or you might have learned everything from Mr. Khan at Khan Academy, or even Chegg. But then what you're putting down there, you now clearly understand and can back up and could defend in a conversation, blah, blah. So anyway, my proposal then, that I'm going to turn to you guys, I'm going to walk away for a second. My proposal, bearing in mind that we don't want this to get too close to the final exam, my proposal is that we post it Friday night of next week. That would be like, 6 o'clock or something, Friday night, and it's due back Tuesday morning before lab. That's my, oh, yes, please. Oh, wow. Oh, so is that yes to what I'm saying? Is it, wait, so, but I'm proposing that. I mean, that's not a command, that's a proposal. I mean, if you all agree, if that seems, I mean, we have to have an exam and stuff like that. We said, oh, okay, wow, okay, great, okay.
Sure.
Oh, sorry.
So once we exit the exam, we're not going to be able to stop and resume. Let's say if we exit Friday, stop and resume Saturday, right?
Oh, wait, I think that's a very important, good question. I think, but say one, but I'm not sure I caught it. Say, if you start on a Friday, then what?
Exit the exam or stop and continue Saturday, since we have to submit it by Tuesday.
Oh, yes, you definitely can stop and start. Yes, it's not, yes, it's more like, it's like an essay or a research paper or something. We don't, right, you can start it, yes, you can stop and start as much as you want. You can go in different rooms of your house. I mean, you're not sitting and taking a, like that kind of exam. It's totally take home at your own pace. In fact, right. You have a few days. That's right. What says in the chat is right. And to be even more clear, and this is why it's good that we practice we're totally using Google Classroom for it. Like we will post it as though it was an assignment, as though it's a regular assignment. But yeah, of course it counts as an exam, but we're posting it like a regular assignment. And then you'll, on separate pieces of paper, of your own paper, you'll do out everything, your own answers, all the work. Like you'll be like, this is question 1, find the velocity. I did this, blah, 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 diagram, blah, blah. And then, oh, the velocity is 2 meters per second, and you circle the final answer. And all of it, you're just putting on your own paper and then scanning the whole thing in, making one PDF and submitting. So yes, you walk back and forth to that thing. Don't try to just do it in 2 hours or something. Take date. In fact, I would recommend to many people, do draft copies, do scratch notes, whatever. And then when you're all good, put it all together in a nice copy, maybe even number the pages, please number the pages, and put it together like that. So yeah, from Friday to Tuesday is what I'm saying. It looks like, I love, okay. I appreciate what you guys are doing in the chat. It does make it seem like it's clear to me. It seems like it's clear to you and you're agreeing. And Andreas, does that make sense what I'm saying? Yes, PDF. Yeah, PDF, please. Yes. Like for the whole document, right?
So Professor, we can type out the exam, or you want us to write out the answers?
Oh, that's another great question. So we're going to give you the questions, but then it's as though, but what you're doing, you're in effect doing in like a blue book, like everything you want credit for, you're doing on your own pieces of paper. So you're not trying to put your answers on our exam sheets. You're doing it on separate sheets. Now, whether you type it or write it, that is totally up to you. I mean, that's a great question. Honestly, in most people's case, we're not expecting you to type it. No, we're definitely not expecting, certainly not requiring. We would expect that most people would do out the exam with pen and paper, pencil and paper. Like, again, you want to write like, this is question 1. Find them, you don't have to type out the whole question or anything. Just be like, this is question 1, part A, find the velocity of the airplane or whatever. And then you write out everything you want to write out for credit. Basically, you're going to take your own pieces of paper and pretend they're like a blue book. That's really what, except then you're going to, scan them and turn it into a PDF. But so whether it's typing or writing, we would expect that most people would not type. For most people, it's much more comfortable and real and honest to just like write these things out. And that's what we expect. And you are, remember, trying to prove in the end that this is your work that you understand. So the only reason to type, the only people that should type is if you happen to be a person who already likes doing math and physics, like if you tend to solve problems that way already in your computer, like you're that good at, and you use LaTeX or something, you can type. You can, but we are definitely not telling anybody that they should type. And in some people's cases, it's kind of suspicious when we get too much back from them that's typed, like you might imagine. So I don't know if that answers, but we're not expecting it to be typed.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, that answers my question.
Oh, okay, cool. These are good questions. These are all really fair questions. Any other? Now, I'll even say, yeah, you know what I'm going to say? I mean, there's more material we have to go on with, like this, with this V lambda F business. I want to go on with that. And it gets us to this thing called the Doppler effect, which I think you now have looked at the lab, maybe even twice. I really want to press forward with that. But I'm going to hold that thought for a minute, because the honest thing is this, well, I'm going to hold that thought for a minute, because these questions about the exam are good enough that we should take this opportunity. I'm going to shut up and let you all turn. Oh, and again, remember the practice exam might be updated. There might be corrections. Also, the practice exam is meant, it really is meant to be the only thing you need. So if anything, what always happens in physics, things, our practice exams, if anything, are longer than the actual exam. Like the practice exam in theory should be everything that you could possibly need to know, which is why, again, we might post updates, and then you do have to be responsible for those updates. But there's not going to be something that just suddenly appears on the exam that isn't in the practice exam. Therefore, what I'm saying is everybody right now should just quietly take out the practice exam and start wherever they want to start. I mean, I think you should start at the beginning, but just try it now on your own, like on separate pieces of paper. You're not going to hand in this practice. It is for practice. But I want people to just start now on their own pace. If you find it easy, good. Fly and make yourself feel good and just, you know, but if you find it hard, start thinking about it and start asking me questions now. But let's all just start taking that practice exam at our own paces. Just whatever questions you come up with, put in the public chat or say. I'm going to start putting more Google things in for you right now, like point portals. But that's what we're going to do. Like, so I'm not going to, so let's not, so I'm saying, I'll even start quietly. If we're just quietly working on this and it seems to be going well, I'll start even quietly putting up answers and doing stuff to let people know if they're right or wrong and stuff. But yeah, let's just, so yeah, just, oh, I would recommend, wait, one thing about the exam though, one part, sorry. Oh yeah. So I'm just recommending that we're looking at basically this piece of the document right now. And a lot of it is easy. It's not meant to be a trick. If you think something is easy, it probably is. And it's probably just trying to ask you something that you'll need for the next question or something. It may be trying, parts of these exams is even trying to teach people things at the last minute. So if you think you know an answer, don't overthink it. But I will shut up.
Do you want us to answer?
Oh, I answer which the very. Oh, I just want you to know. I mean, if you think you're good and you've got an answer, just move. I want you to ask me any questions you want to ask, or you could put in the chat if you think you have an answer. You're talking about, but you're talking about for like 1A. You mean? Or,
Yeah.
Sure. You can totally say it. Yeah, sure. If you want to say yes, please. Sure, say it. If you,
Okay. Well, it was, I did 2 pi r. So I just did 2 pi times 4.
Awesome. Right. So that's awesome. Yes. No, I'm glad actually. Yes. So we didn't mean anything trickier than that. That's totally right. That would be full credit. I just want to see something. Right. And in this case, in fact, just to clarify with everybody, that's all we were looking for there was to do like the 2 pi r thing. That's right. And in this case, we wanted expressed like that. Like sometimes it's advantageous to write out the decimals and sometimes not. So if she wrote, was that Samantha? Was that you, Samantha? Sorry, I'm not even sure who I was just hearing.
Yeah, it was me.
Okay, great. Thank you. Yeah, what she said was exactly right. Like you could literally write it as 2 pi 4, or in other words, 2 times pi times 4, which is like 8 times pi. That is absolutely legitimate answer to A. It is the answer. It would also be sort of right if someone wrote something like 24, 25 point something, but it sort of does ask us not to express it that way. So 8 pi would be the answer. And I'm actually glad Samantha asked about that because once you're confident that we're not looking for anything crazier than that, all right, and I think that's why she was kind of asking, like, once you see that that is all we're looking for, then a bunch of these things in a row are like easy exercises where you're just doing the same pattern over and over. And you should trust that, all of you. Like if you get into a little groove with the test where you're like, wait, this just seems like easy. Right, we actually are trying to use the test even to get you to see what the points are. We're actually trying to still teach you even as you're taking it, or if you just take it in good faith, things hopefully get clearer, not less clear. So do trust. Samantha's right to ask, but the answer to the first one would be just like 8 pi. And frankly, the answer to the second one would just be like 4 pi, exactly maybe what you think. But we're trying to show you by these patterns how the pi and everything works. So again, so some of you may fly, you might be all the way up to question 3 by a few minutes, and that's great because they do get harder and harder, and it builds on itself. I'm going to shut up, but yes, totally right. Totally awesome. Yes.
Professor, I have a question.
Yes, yes. Please, yes.
So for part 4, section E through G, are we continuing using the information given in part A through C with the radius being 5?
Wait, great question, great question. I think so. Wait, oh, part 4, I'm sorry. In part 4. Yes, wait, so in part 4, you're continuing, this is a great question. Sorry, I'm just catching up. The radius is 5 feet, you're continuing to assume the radius is 5 feet. Sorry, which part are you actually, say your question. I want to make absolutely sure I'm answering this right. Say your question again, I'm sorry.
So in part 4, when we start getting to the pizza slices,
Oh yeah,
the
yeah.
radius is still 5, right?
Yes. When you start getting to pizza slices, the radius is still, yes, right. Yes, I'm sorry. It took me a while to, yes, very good question. But the answer is yes, you can still use that same radius. You're really talking about like part E in especially, right? You're asking.
Part
Yeah,
E through G.
right.
Okay.
Okay, no, great question. And by the way, if you're up to that, that's terrific too. I thank you for giving me a sense of how far along you've gotten. Yeah. So to everybody, to like the real honest, now that I'm really looking at where she is and what she's asking about, you can and should continue to use the radius of 5, especially if that makes it as clear as possible for you. You should and can continue to use the radius of 5. I will say to everybody, since we're not in the middle of the actual exam, since this is practice, if you do it right, you're going to find that your answer, like the reason this is a great question, the reason, and again, to everybody, and I'm sorry, wait, I'm sorry. Is this, is it Ariel or is it, who's asking? I'm sorry, who?
Nikki.
Vicky, I'm sorry. Okay, Vicky, right. Okay. So what Vicky's asking is a really good, again, she might be farther along than some people, but it's definitely a good thing to be aware of, that you're going on and doing this like repetitious stuff over and over again. And then finally something starts to seem to change a little bit. Like all of a sudden we're talking about pizza. She's talking about page 6, sorry, no, the end of page 5. After all of this circle, then suddenly we say pizza. And she's absolutely right. Like all of a sudden, it's not really clear whether we're expecting you to keep that radius of 5 foot. And that's why it's a really good question, because she's right. And she's right to notice, like on a test taking strategy point of view, she's right. Like something's about to happen now in E, F, G, and H. Like now we're kind of like getting to a real issue where we're asking you about something that might even take a little more thought or might require that you put it all together. And so to answer as directly as I can, you absolutely could keep using the radius 5 there. You can and should if you need a radius to make it like clear what's going on. But the absolute truth of why we didn't say that like that is what we're actually hoping you'll see is no matter what radius you plug in there, if you do it right, you're all going to get the same answers no matter what. Because the thing, and again, I'm sure Vicky already gets this, like I'm now just talking on and on, and I'll shut up. But in a really weird, one of the reasons this problem is like so long and may seem so repetitious or dumb to a lot of you, it might seem dumbly easy or dumbly hard, but what we're actually trying to do in this problem is break down the situation to such a minute level that everybody can come away and see that the whole point of an angle and the whole point of cosines and sines, the whole thing about angles is that they are a way of measuring chunks of circles without having to care how big the circle is. Like the whole thing of an angle is that a 30-degree angle just is a 30-degree angle, whether you're in a basketball or in a ping pong ball or in planet Earth or, or even if it's flat. I'm going to stop talking, but like, it's really not an accident at all that Vicky noticed that. And Vicky would be, and it's cool that she asked, but like the coolest thing of all is that if she were in the exam right now and couldn't ask or something, and she couldn't ask, like, and let's say even she was stressed or something, which why would she be? But if it were me, I would be. If she got to that point in this exam, and all of a sudden she was like, wait, I think I could do this if I am allowed to assume the radius is 5, but I'm not sure what to do if I'm not allowed to assume that. Like if any of you gets to that kind of thing in an exam when you're like, wait, if I can do this, I think I know what to do, but I'm not sure if I'm allowed to do that. So otherwise I don't know what to do. Of course, that's a stressful thing, especially if you can't ask the teacher, but I'm here to give the advice is when you get to that moment in a test where you feel like if you were allowed to do something, then you could move on, then do that thing. Like for real, this is, and I'm not talking to Vicky, it's not a criticism at all. It's a compliment, but like it's remarkable how much more ground you can get on science tests in general and how much more you can pass through the program. Like whenever someone's like, I don't know what to do, what if they're lucky enough that what they actually mean is, I don't know whether or not to do this thing. If you got that in your brain, if you can even picture a thing to do that would help you move on, do it. Like the answer, the ultimate point, the best way I could put this is, but it's so much more true than I can get you to realize, anybody to realize. It's like the secret is if you're choosing between two things to do in a science exam of any kind, or lab or a big assignment, if you've got a choice between two things and you legitimately don't know which one to do and you legitimately can't ask because it would be like cheating or whatever, if you're lucky enough to actually be able to identify what your choice is to yourself, you're like, I don't know whether to do this or whether to do that. Do the thing that will allow you to do more things. That's always what you do in science. Just pick the choice. You might not know what's right or wrong, but you know the choice that's going to allow for more work after that step. And the honest truth is that most people will unconsciously avoid that. Like most people would half sort of realize, I'm really going to shut up. Why do I get so into God? I don't know. But like Vicky's question is just right. Like it just shows that she's reading the test subtly as a test, like not just as random physics, but she's like, she realized that there was a rhythm change right there and it was worth asking about. And I'm glad she did. But if she couldn't ask, then what she would want to do is just go ahead and assume that the radius was whatever she wanted, the 5. She should just go ahead and assume it's 5 because she would then know what to do. But if she doesn't assume it's 5, she doesn't know what to do. So it's the right thing to do. Like really, 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 really. But good question. I'm going to shut up and go back to my world now. But good question.
Sorry, last question.
No, please. I keep me in business here. Yeah, please.
So for H, in the final answer, will there be a variable?
Great question. Okay, hold on. Great. Hold on. Catching up. But one. Wait. Last question. H. Oh yeah, no, great question. Now, weirdly, right? Okay. There actually is an answer to this. That actually is a number. You'll get an actual number answer that won't have a variable in it. It's like a number of radians. But that's a really good question. Again, I mean, not but. That's a very good question in the same way that the other one was like, okay, so now but that's a surprise. You're right. You're right to ask this. And like, let me say this to everybody again, and everybody might be at different spots on this, but and maybe by the end of this class, no, certainly by next class, I will walk through and try to show this to everybody as clearly as I can. But to everybody, I'm talking to everybody here, this whole first part, like the whole first 6 pages, which again, let me say, I know it's tedious. It is tedious, and maybe it seems like kindergarten, or maybe it seems like gibberish. I'm not sure. But really what's going on in all of those steps for the first 6 pages is it's actually trying to show you through all these different examples of numbers that in the end of the day, even with very little information, like the variables will cancel out. Just like in part G and H, whether you assume a radius of 5 or you assume a radius of 4 or 3, you're going to get the same answer no matter what. And similarly, what they're saying in H, and I might just do this in a second. Maybe this is just hard enough. I may do this for everybody in a second. But H is the hardest question of all of everything in the first 6 pages. But it's sort of the point of the first 6 pages. Like you're able to see it maybe ideally after noticing the patterns and everything in the first 6 pages. Okay, I'm going to do, I think I'm actually going to do this in a moment for everybody. I'm going to do 8. I think this is a very fair, like, I'm going to do part H in a second for everybody.
I think I got it.
Oh, okay, great. Do you want to say, or do you want to write in the chat, or do
should I say the final answer? Is that fine?
That's a really good question.
I can send it to you privately.
Yeah, send it. Thank you. All right. But good. Okay. I'm going to say to everybody, oh, and I know class ends in like 40 minutes for good or for bad. I'm going to say the one thing I'm definitely going to do in this class before the period is over is I'm going to do H for everybody. Some people may have already gotten it right by that point. Some people might not be up to it. But the more I'm thinking about this, like absolutely the whole, if you get H, H is not easy. So I want to give more people more time to think about it on their own. But I will do H by the end of today because H is what puts all together the purpose of all of the work you're doing before H. So definitely if you get H, you know you get this whole first 5 pages. And some of you might even want to skip to H if you're, you know, if you're getting bored, whatever. But I will do that. But I'm warning everybody, that's probably going to be the one problem I'll do. And you may want to think about it. It's not long, but the answer might surprise you. But I will do that before the period ends. But you may want to look at it before I do. Also, again, I put in the chat, please don't, if you're already getting that far, any and all of you, I would skip pages 7 and 8 for right now. They are legit. It's not that they're too hard or something, but they involve like a straight edge and compass, which has been hard for us to do during Zoom and stuff. So I don't know what we're going to, so skip it. Don't worry about pages. I think, right. Yeah, but don't worry about page 7 and 8 for right now. Anyway, for right now. Oh yeah, so to skip here, I'll write in the chat again, right? Hold on. I will put that in the stream as well.
This graph.
Easy. Third. Hey, easy. They can all see you. All right, about 30, and then I owe you money in Animal Crossing. You're live on TV, buddy. You're in the whole world doing that.
Oh. Why and how?
Well, this way. Look, here, I'll show you. Wait a second. Here, look.
Oh no.
See, that's all them. That's you. You're saying hi. Right, okay. So see that. All right. Sorry, I don't know if we're gonna go there. Right. Hi. Thanks. Hey. Thank you. All right. Well, that's. You see. So there's sorry, Megan. Question. Sorry, Megan. Go. Or is that a question, Megan? Or wait, am I crazy? Wait, I am crazy. Yeah. Oh, wow. And he would have caught that. Sorry, that part wasn't, he would have actually understood that because of course he's in Zoom kindergarten now. So, but I'm sorry, he didn't catch it. I didn't catch it. Okay, that's hilarious. Okay. What was it? Yes. Oh, right. Oh, right.
Sorry.
Bless you.
Oh, thank you. Sorry, thank you. I keep forgetting them. Thank you. I actually. Okay. Who knows how science works? Yeah. Okay. Okay. Oh. Wait. Okay, so to everybody, again, I'm kind of thinking and hoping that this is productive. I mean, nothing is really more productive than everybody actually authentically working on their own and at their own pace. Like a class like this where sort of nothing seems to be happening is either the most productive it can be for those of us who are taking advantage of it, or of course it can be as unproductive as possible. And, I just hope it's at least productive for the people that are taking advantage. Now, so I've been looking at the chat and stuff, and I think the best thing that I can do for everybody before we end today, like to at least wrap up one big section of this whole thing, like the test is really about harmonic oscillation, and the unit that comes after that is is propagations of waves, right? What we're just to remind everybody again, what we're really in this physics class to be studying is immaterial motions. Like, again, we're here to study the velocity, the predictions, the patterns of how things move across space that aren't things, right? Like waves. And waves are built up of a bunch of oscillations, harmonic oscillations, and that's what this whole first test is all about, is oscillations. But what's really happening, again, just to try to put in perspective, is over years and years of doing this in physics, we've come to realize that like to do harmonic oscillations properly in physics, it involves all these cosines and this y equals a cosine omega t business, like so much. And it really means you really have to understand physically what cosines are, or you have to see why this mathematical abstraction like comes up so much in the physical world. So in a big way, this whole exam this whole first part of the exam is really just trying to get us to see how radians and cosines and all of that actually mean anything. Why am I saying this again? So I'm going to do part H right now. I'm going to do sorry, question? Oh, I'm going to do part H right now. But I really want to ask in a way to, like, you're getting something, you're getting this, like, we're trying to convert you into thinking, whenever you ever thought about degrees, like if you think you understand degrees as angles, then always bring your concept of degrees back to a 360. Like a 360 is a full circle, right? 360 degrees means around the full circle, whether it's skateboarding or snowboarding or whatever, or video gaming. A 360 is a full circle. And just notice that whenever you say 360, the whole meaning of it is that it doesn't matter how large the radius of the circle is. Like going around the full circle, big or small, is called a 360, right? Well, in math, in the more proper way of doing things, instead of saying 360, we say 2 pi radians, right? In a way, the big key to all this is just understanding 2 pi radians. literally means that. It means a full circle, regardless of the size of the circle, regardless of the size. So another way to put that, it all comes into this, like what we're using over and over again is that an angle by definition is an arc length divided by a radius, right? I know I'm saying that over and over, and we're trying to exercise you through these questions. But the importance of saying that is, think about this then. That means if we say it's an arc length per radius because we're trying to take into account the fact that we're just trying to say fraction of circle. That's what that means, fraction of circle. And so what we're really saying is, look, if you have a circle of radius 1, this is what the exam is like trying to get across. If you have and again, I'm saying this in an attempt to clarify part H, because I think part H, when you see the answer, any of you, if you've thought about part H at all of part 1, you're going to be angry when you see the answer. You're going to either be angry at me or at yourself because it's going to seem stupidly simple, but it's not stupidly simple. It's like intelligently simple. You'll see when I tell you, and I want you to take it seriously because it puts in perspective what an angle really is. So what I'm saying here is an angle measured in radians is just a fraction of a circle. It's a fraction of a circle. And therefore it shouldn't matter how big the circle is. It's just a question of like what portion of the whole we're talking about. So a way to think about what an angle really is really, it is just an arc length. It's like, how much of the circle did you trace out? Did you go around the whole circle or not? So like if you picture a circle of radius 1, if r equals 1, right? The whole point is that the circumference of any circle is 2 pi r. So if r equals 1, then the circumference, now I haven't answered the question yet. I'm just saying this to remind everybody. Any circle whose radius is 1, well, the circumference around the whole circle is 2 pi times 1 is 2 pi. Is like 6.28. If the radius is 1 meter, then going around a full circle is like going around 6.28 meters, right? In other words, what I'm trying to say is, if you're trying to picture what a radian is, or if you're trying to picture what an angle measured in radians is, or you're trying to picture what we mean when we say 2 pi radians, we're actually just referring to how far out, like, 2 pi radians really just means 2 pi meters. It really means 6.28 meters that you'd have to walk to go around a whole circle if the circle had radius 1. If the circle had radius 2, then your arc length around the whole circle would be 2 pi times 2, because the circle's bigger. But 2 pi radians is a full circle and is literally just an arc length if you assume the radius is 1, right? So what does all this have to do with it? If angle really means, by definition, arc length divided by radius, then in part E, it's asking, what would be the angular size of a slice if you divided a circle into 6 even slices? What I'm trying to show here for part E is you can assume that the radius is 5, and maybe you should, to make it clear. You can assume the radius continues to be 5, but then, okay, we want to divide that size pizza into 6 different slices. So the whole crust, the whole circumference around the whole pizza would be 2 pi times 5, like that would be the radius around the whole thing. I mean the circumference around the arc length around the whole thing. And angle means arc length divided by radius. So the arc length would be 2 times 5, 2 pi times 5. The radius would be 5. So we have 2. That would be the angle of going around the whole thing would be just 2 pi, but we only want a sixth of that. We want to divide the circle into 6 portions. Doesn't matter how large or small the radius is. If we want a sixth of a circle, we want a sixth of 2 pi, 2 pi over 6, pi over 3. In other words, whether we put the radius in as 5 or not, a sixth of a circle is pi over 3 radians. In other words, like 3.14 divided by 3 radians, a little bit more than 1 radian. If you want an eighth of a circle on the next page in part F, then you're dividing 2 pi by 8 sections. That's like, we're just basically in the same way that an eighth of a circle, and if you want to divide a pizza into 8 slices, then if you're thinking degrees, each one of those slices will be, Whoa, sorry. Then each one of those pieces will be 45 degrees. Like if you're thinking in degrees, if you think a whole pizza is 360 degrees and you've got to divide into 8 equal slices, each one will be 45 degrees. Just trying to emphasize again that the size of a degree, the size of an angle is just a section of a circle. So to wrap this up, to get to part F, then those are the answers like to E and F. But to part H, I'm saying this. In part, and in fact, I may need to turn it to one of you to complete this for me, but in part H of the test, it's saying, imagine pizza. We're just imagining pizza because we're sort of now realizing it doesn't matter what the radius of the pizza is. Angles are angles are angles. Imagine an angle where the size of the arc length, like the crust, is exactly the same as the size of the radius. We're looking for an angle such that this is what we want here. We want the angle, the size of the angle, the size of the slice. So literally this. Oh, actually. Oh, I see. Oh, sorry. Hold on. How do we do it? I forgot how to do shit. Right. Okay. Oh, whoop.
Oh my God, Professor, is it 1?
Yes. Yes.
Oh my.
Class is over. Yes. That's awesome. Yes.
I had that and I thought, no, there's no way it's 1 radian.
No, you totally get it. No, and of course that's what I thought. No, if you, yes, I mean it's infuriating, but then you get it, right? And it's not meant to be true, but you are totally right. And I will finish that for everybody else. But yes, she is totally. I don't even actually who. Well, yes, that's awesome. That makes me. Someone just figured something. Yes, and that is so. What she's saying. So hold on a second. Yes. Yes. It is that stupid, but it's not stupid. And definitely this is one of those things that always happens in physics. The minute anybody figures anything out, immediately, and I'm not saying, well, I don't know what just happened, but whenever anybody figures anything out, of course, the next thing is one always either wants to say, oh my God, I'm so stupid for not knowing that a minute ago, or that question is so stupid, or like, it always seems that way in physics. You always have to remind yourself that like, no, there's a reason we didn't get that a second ago. And now we do because yeah, like mathematically, I'm saying what's the situation where arc length is literally equal to radius? In other words, they're interchangeable. R and S are the same thing. So it's like S over S or R over R. And yes, mathematically, that is always one, anything over itself is 1. But what am I actually saying physically? I'm saying to everybody here, what a radian is that what a radian is a certain portion of a circle, excuse me. It's a section of a circle. It's an angle. Precisely 1 exact radian is the angle that you would go that's just big enough that you stretch out exactly the same amount of crust as the radius of the pizza. Like if this curvy line, that's horrendous, is exactly as long as that short line, as soon as I reach a curvy line, it's exactly as long as that straight line. That's what a radian is. Put another way, since there's 2 pi radians to a circle, 1 radian is a little bit less than 1 radian. This pizza slice. So for H, the pizza slice and that is what is 1 radian? It's about 57 degrees. It's like a little bit less than 60 degrees. How do I know that? Because it's a little bit sorry, a little bit. Yeah, it's a little bit less than 60 degrees. It's like 57 degrees. Why? Because going around the whole circle is going like 6.28 radians. So a radian is a little bit less than a sixth of a circle. Like there's a little bit more than 6 radians in a whole circle. So 1 radian is like about a sixth of a circle. But yes, we're looking for, that pizza slice is literally what we mean by 1 radian. That is the answer to that. If and when, all the people that see why the answer to part H is 1 get what a radian is. That's what a radian is. And it's not stupid if it took us that long to understand that. And honestly, I know a lot of people who teach physics that when I point that out, that don't know that. Like, to me, it makes it much easier to see what a radian is. A radian is about a sixth of a circle. It's about 57 degrees. It's exactly any pizza slice that has exactly as much crust as it has a length side. That's a radian pizza slice from what, that's like a 57 degree slice from whatever pie it was cut. If you get that, you definitely get something. I think, I know it's only 5:30, but I think if things are clear, if you guys know when if it's clear to you when the test is, it's clear to you that you're going to use this document studying for the test, we will post more solutions and we will post updates or corrections or comments about those 2 pages, 7 and 8. Like, if that's all clear to you that that's how it's going to work, and that you know what you should do from here on in, if that's clear, I feel like work here was done. We could leave. I mean, I'm good to go right now if you guys are good, if that's all clear. Oh, cool. Thank you, Ariel. And then the Google assignment thing is getting clear. Like, hopefully a lot of you got back a lot of points today. Hopefully you were seeing the points in your, I mean, everybody should have at least gotten one thing back now. Excuse me. Sorry, I don't know what my problem is. And with that with the assignment thing, again, just now that I'm looking through them more deeply and fastly trying to get them back, I mean, I hope it's getting more clear. The point is, like, with every class, anything, okay. So sorry, that's a very fair question on Ekaterina's part. Let me finish my thought and then I'll answer that and then we'll go. But one thing about those assignment portals, I know they're a little confusing and a little overly cutesy, but in a way it's okay. Like, they're not supposed to be overly complicated what you're putting in. You're one way or another, those assignment portals is you just reminding me of something you said or put in the public chat like that day. But let me also make clear, nobody has to fill out any of those. I'm not quizzing you on what you said today or something like that. Like, if you didn't say something in a given day, you just don't have to turn that in at all. It is like extra credit in that sense. No one's getting zeros or something for not turning it in. It's just every way that you can turn it in, you'll get points. But they are specific, right? Like, one of them is to turn it in if you said something that I said right or wrong to. Like, it is for that. It's not for other things. I don't know if that's clear. But anyway, the 57 degrees, I'm sort of doing in my head. It's slightly less than 60, but this is how. So this is oh yeah. Wait, okay, so I like Ariel's answer to Ekaterina's question. First of all, I really like, again, Ekaterina's question is like very specific and good. It's the kind of thing that could be dipped into more than one portal for points, just to be clear. And then certainly Ariel's response, absolutely. Like, she could put that response in like 3 different portals I can think of. I think like that's an example of, like, every time I say for right or for wrong for one of those assignment portals for the extra points, like what Ariel's doing here in the chat, totally, yes, she would put that in just for a regular 50 points. But she would put that exact same thing where she's saying, like, 1 radian equals 180 degrees divided by pi equals 57. Like, that is so concrete and helpful. I totally agree with it. But it's so concrete and helpful that maybe it could have even have been wrong. And I might have even said it was wrong. Either way, she's definitely double dipping that she's putting that in the for right or wrong portal because it deserves those points. Now, on Ekaterina, I still maybe will answer it. Hold on. I do want to answer Ekaterina's other question too, but yes, I agree with Ariel's answer there. And if that works for Ekaterina, then we're done. But I'll also just say, I think, I will just say that this. what I just wrote is exact. Right. Yeah. No, I'm going to answer this thing about the points, Ekaterina and Vicky thing. I definitely want to answer that. But one thing, what I just put on the screen is just my version of, like, what I just put on the screen is no different from Ariel's answer. I mean, it's definitely not better or something. It's saying the same thing, and it may be much more clear the way she said it, but just whatever works. That's my version of answering. Okay. Now about the points, though, just to be clear, like what Katerina and Vicky are asking about the points, like that is a fine line I'm walking here. Like, and this is true of our homework policy too, or if you have any. Well, what I'm saying is, there's no, it's extra credit. It is extra credit in that I will never deduct any points from anybody for not doing it. And you're not, if you submit one of these things, like I'm either looking at it and saying, oh yes, I approve and giving you the points, or I'm saying, wait, I'm not sure you understand what this is about. And then I'm like not giving the points or something, but there's no, you're not, it is all just extra points that you're putting on your average. And if you did none of them, well, yeah, so here's the best way I can answer this. If you did none of these assignment portal game things, if you did 0 of them, and you got an A on both exams and an A in lab, then it would never make you're not going to be downgraded at all. Then you have an A in the class, no problem. Like if you get an A on both exams, a 90 or 5 or something, right? Just to be extreme. If you get a 95 on both exams and you get an A in lab, then you have an A in the class and you don't need any of these points. And that's the sense in which they're extra credit. Like we will never punish you for not handing them in. You don't owe them to us. And if you don't need them, you don't need them. I'm not sure that will be true for everybody, but that is definitely true. On the other hand, every one of these that you do, you're just getting tons and tons of extra points that will make a very big difference in your grade. And it is probably true that like if all of you understand that and all of you do get tons and tons of these extra points, and then one of you never does it at all, I will think it's likely that everybody else gets a much higher grade than that one person. I mean, it just puts that much more pressure on your exam scores. But we also don't want you to lie or anything. So no, like you do not have, you submit these things when you have something to submit, and you're being honest, of course. But of course, I can always check the chat logs and all that. And I do have a good memory. Like it would be very dumb for you to like lie and say every day that you said a whole bunch of stuff, and you never were saying anything. I mean, of course, that would be a bad idea. But you never have to say you said something when you didn't. You'll never be downgraded. They are just extra points. They are all optional. But yeah, they'll make a huge difference. It would be really silly not to take advantage of them if you're not 100% confident of how you do on exams. Does that make it? Does that answer? Does that answer the question about the points? Does it make it clear? Yeah. Okay. Great. All right. So then now it is. Okay. Now we really do have to go. Actually, isn't that funny? Ha ha ha. So I'm good to go if you guys are good to go. If I get a goodbye or something or a wave or something.
Yeah, Professor, thank you.
Professor.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, great. Thank you, Megan.